Okay, I'd like to call the Infrastructure Committee meeting to order for March 2025. Call the roll.
Schulz?
Here.
Matt Perkins?
Here.
Charles Gorman?
Here.
You have the quorum.
We have a quorum. Okay, Alderman Lavallee has requested, according to our rules, to join the meeting electronically. He was injured evidently and unable to attend. He meets all the requirements that we have for attendance. So unless there's an objection, we'll let him join the meeting electronically. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and let him in. What?
Uh-oh.
Good evening, John. We are admitting you into the meeting for the Infrastructure Committee meeting electronically, so welcome.
Thank you.
Chairman?
Okay, so now we really have a quorum. So everyone's here. Public comments, are there any? Hearing none, we'll go on. Approval of the minutes for February 12th, 2025.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of February 12th of 2025.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Discussion, action, resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement for participation in the Illinois Public Works Mutual Aid Network.
Okay, so what's essentially going on here is that there should be an attached memo in your packet. The IPW man has updated a few of their rules, and as a result, we need to approve, should we want to, the resolution authorizing us to remain members under these guidelines. The three biggest rules are stated right in the memo. Mutual aid is not just for emergencies, so if we needed, like, say, a vac truck, we could call on the network to borrow one from another city. Another is just clarifying our not-for-profit status. And then, makes it a little easier to make amendments without having to go through a long, drawn-out process. Those are the three largest changes.
So has this group been around for a while?
Quite a long time. We've been members for a long time. In fact, I forgot to bring my little badge, but I'm actually our Region 3 director.
I motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay.
Just for the record, can you clarify what your motion is, just for the record?
All right. Motion to approve authorizing an intergovernmental agreement for participation in the Illinois Public Works Mutual Aid Network, IPWMAN. IPWMAN, I don't know.
IPW man.
IPWMAN.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, but I think that we should have some discussion. And, because, I mean, I understand these intergovernment agreements, that certainly the fire one is mutual aid and so on makes sense. All the various groups and so on, special task force that the police have between the different organizations, that makes sense. But I'm at a loss, though, here on this one. I'm not sure, what are you going to give them, a 1976 Ford pickup to?
Well, it's not just being able to, like, loan equipment out, it's also to be able to receive equipment. So let's say a tornado comes through and knocks over the Public Works building, and we're out all those vehicles.
Right.
We could call into the network and have vehicles brought in so we can at least continue on. If we have a more than severe snowstorm, which doesn't look likely anymore, But if we needed additional snowplow trucks, we can activate the mutual aid network and potentially get equipment up here.
Fortunately, I can say that
No, you got to turn it on. Use the.
it's powered up.
Sure that the right.
Testing.
I think it might.
That's better.
There it is. Fortunately, I can say that for my career, I've never had to engage implement on anything. But I will see, I do, since we are a part of the network now, I will see requests coming from other communities. Rush assistance, when Woodbridge had a tornado come through, they were able to just get on here, everything's preset, terms.
Directly into the mic because it's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everything was preset. So terms, what's expected, what you can do, everything is just there so that if there is an emergency, you send out the button or you send out that warning or the need and everybody responds. Have we ran into a situation where Harvard had to respond? No. Or anybody's had to come here? No. But the track work is there so that in an emergency, all we have to do is send that message and say, we need help.
But those communities too can charge for giving you that help, right?
I don't believe, as part of this agreement, there is no charge for these things.
Right. It's part of the network. So let's say they don't need equipment, but they do need additional manpower. We would be able to send some staff members under the IPW man agreement to go work at, like, say, Cairo, if they needed it. But it's a mutual aid, so they don't charge us, we don't charge them.
And that's provided that we have the ability to do it.
Correct.
We have the excess manpower,
Correct.
if we have the equipment.
I thought I
And vice
read
versa.
where they could charge.
They can,
What was that? 'Cause that's the only question I had. Section 9.
Section 9?
Item E states, the equipment, material, personnel, supplies and/or services provided pursuant to this agreement shall be at no charge to the requesting agency unless the aid and assistance is requested for more than 5 calendar days. If aid and assistance is requested for more than 5 calendar days, the responding agency may submit an itemized invoice to the requesting agency seeking reimbursement of the costs incurred for personnel, traveling employees, equipment, material, and supplies.
That's what I remember, yeah.
and generally speaking, if you need help beyond 5 days, there's probably an emergency situation that's probably going to qualify for some sort of a state, assistance, I would
Which
hope.
Does talk about that in that section E.
Right, and Matt, you might be more familiar with this as well. If the call goes out, let's say the affected area is just like north of I-80, the personnel or the people that we're trying to bring in for assistance are all going to be south, like outside of the
Yeah.
affected area.
Well, I wouldn't lend anybody that truck we have that costs $35,000 to fix. Because evidently you need a lot of training to operate it properly and so on, and just giving it to some other town.
It broke today.
Jesus. Same thing?
No, hydraulic fluid pump. I have one on the way.
Okay.
Well, I think that's up to Rob's discretion.
Yeah,
And
generally
then
speaking-
to Lou, hey, we have a community that's requesting help.
Yeah, and generally,
We can afford to give this up for 3 or 4 days,
Yeah.
we're okay. And I mean, I see no issues with it. I think this is a great type of setup to make sure people get help when they need it.
Yeah, and generally speaking,
I don't
the
disagree. I just want to cover some.
Sure.
agencies, agencies will have people that are trained in running these types of vehicles. It's just the need is either for the staff because they can't, or because something, today, for example, I'm not going to make Ipleman live, but in the middle of repairing a collapsed storm sewer beneath the Union Pacific Railroad tracks today, our machine broke. So fortunately, we have enough of a relationship with the communities around here that I was able to call down to a neighboring community and say, hey, I don't really need it, but in case, is it available? If we didn't have that, or if the situation got much worse, certainly we could energize Ipleman for something like that and say, hey, we have a need, stand by.
Depending on how far away the issue is, more times than not, they're going to ask for personnel, because equipment like a vac truck, they're going to try to tap resources that are a lot closer.
Well, okay. But if you can use it non-emergency, is it possible to actually negotiate with these, like other communities, and a community would buy a particular piece of equipment that is known to be available, and then we'll buy this if you buy that, and then we'll.
That'd be another IGA though.
That would be
Yeah,
a
that'd be a
separate
different
IGA that you're trying to try.
But you couldn't do it through this,
No.
even though it says you can use this for
Yeah, but
non-emergency.
I imagine you could, Alderman, but I think this is really designed as a temporary stopgap, right? It's not really a way of conducting ongoing day-to-day business. What you're suggesting is an arrangement between two municipalities to share an asset. That would be a separate IGA with that municipality. And in fact, the county has, a county-wide similar program to try where you could cost share some things. It's difficult for us to be a wholly participant in a lot of that because we are on the very edge of the county and there's a huge distance between us and the neighboring neighboring cities and municipalities that to cost share a specific asset gets to be, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But there are things like that where the county has like a county-wide purchasing program, like for buying salt or other kinds of commodities that, you work together as a group to try and get a better rate. So it is possible to create an IGA for a specific asset or specific thing that you want to do. You would just need to negotiate that with that particular municipality. And it'd be separate from this agreement.
Well, that's all the questions I have. We have a motion and a second. The motion is to recommend to the city council to approve this. Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And you have to take the roll on this one?
Since the money's involved.
Okay. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Recommendation passes 4-0.
I added this one too, just because I got some phone calls again about surf, and I just thought this is probably the right forum for this, so I thought we'd at least add it and see if there is anything that anybody wants to bring up regarding surf and their latest ability to find gas lines. You have anything?
I don't think, knock on wood, there hasn't been one that I
Be
know
careful.
of.
So I will add this. So I did have a meeting with representatives from SURF and TechCom. We sat down. I emphasized to them that people are watching them. So you gotta have your PPE on from the time you get into the truck to the time you're done. At 4:59, you should be crawling into your truck to be leaving. You're not working past 5. When anytime they have to dig a hole in order to put the
Fiber optic.
thank you. There's a little clarity, so I want to put a pin in that part, but take a picture. When you're setting up, take a picture. When you're done, take a picture and pile it up and send it my way. So then this way, when there's comments that are being made, we on this side see what's going on. Okay? The reason I put a pin in it is because there was a question about whether or not they needed shoring equipment. According to the rules, if you are digging more than 4 feet deep, then you need shoring equipment. They're not digging beyond 4 feet.
Or they shouldn't be.
They should not be though, yeah.
There'll be some of their larger valve vault boxes or some of their larger vault boxes. I think the biggest one's like 5x5.
And there was a comment last time about a chainsaw that they were using. They were using a concrete cutter because they were cutting into some concrete that was in the way. Now, other complaints that have called, and I welcome people to call the city office, let myself or let Rob know. We've been very quick to go out there and see what's going on. There was one that had a rain gutter or downspout that got broken up. I happened to be coming back from a meeting and went right out to go see it. Took pictures, went out to send it out to Surf, saying, fix it. And they're going to.
I do have one question, Rob. Say if they're boring underneath one of the streets, depending on the depth and depending on our base of our streets, because there's some areas of our streets that we know that has really bad base, and they push it up. Or would they be
If they do
fixing that area?
if they do damage to the street in an area where if they didn't get far enough back and they didn't hit their elevation before they hit the edge of the road and there's heaving because of that, we will certainly call it out and hold them accountable for it. They should be somewhere between 30 and 36 inches per our agreement. I think it's like 24 to 36 inches. They've been okay, but if there are situations like that, then certainly this is something that we're aware of. And then also, I've had discussions with them, in those situations where they have to be far back to get the grade to go beneath it. They've been instructed that if they do have to place their machines on private property to get authorization from the property owner. So like, hey, we're going to be on your parcel because of the angle we have. They've been directed to communicate that with the resident.
Thank you.
Okay. There's also one comment that somebody told me about was that guy that was here from
Surf?
Aaron?
from Surf, from Marengo, the guy.
Yeah, Aaron.
Yeah, and it seems like when they said that when these things happen, he said he would be there, and he hasn't been.
So the incident that was in question, he was actually going and getting supplies and coming back, but Jaime was on site. So Surf, and keep in mind, there are two different, Jaime is with
TechCom.
And Aaron is with Surf. Now, Aaron was on his way to go, I believe it was Tractor Supply, to get a few things and then come back when that incident happened. So he was in the area and was present before and after.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying, these are people calling me up.
Oh, yeah, no, and I get it.
No, and I get it that Aaron has to run and probably do stuff, and I get that too, like, run and grab, like, supplies, because, being the foreman or whatever his title, true title is. But they're usually always on site, just like with the last agreement with the company before that we decided to do it. Okay.
Okay.
So, and Rob, correct me, did you receive the paint yet?
No.
So one of the things that was brought up in that meeting too is that Rob's kind of going through his paint budget. And they're supposed to be getting us 2 cases of spray cans, kind of make up for what we've been, using up. So,
Oh, the marker stuff.
the market,
Mhm.
yeah.
Marking utilities, yes.
I'll probably be $1,000 over my paint budget.
What was your budget on that?
Like, we have a supplies budget of like $3,500 that usually I'll spend $1,500 in paint and some ancillary stuff. But yeah, this is like every time I turn around, right now I've got 2 staff members out locating because one does sanitary, one does storm, and then whatever one gets done first, they jump to water, or, just with the 2 guys at the same time for as much length as we have, it's been helpful.
So I'll poke them again tomorrow, what the status is on the
Yeah.
paint.
Okay, anything more on that? Okay. We'll move on to strategic vision. And we're having that big meeting on the 20th, right? So there's really, I don't think there's anything we really need to bring up here this evening.
So we pretty much
We
on
talk-
the
we
point,
talk-
right?
I don't have anything.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about everything, and we know where the infrastructure stuff that we had, so we'll probably have some things to offer at the cow.
Correct.
And so I think we can probably just breeze by this particular item, unless there's something anybody wants to bring up.
As far as, John, was there anything under strategic vision you wanted to bring up? John?
Hello.
John, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still there. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I clicked on mute.
Oh.
No, I don't have anything.
You were going to say something?
Under new business.
Okay, so let's go to new business.
So there is something that has been an issue for a while. We've had essentially, when we have like an older rental unit with multiple units in there, if one unit doesn't pay their water, it has a tendency that we have to shut off the water, which cuts off water for everybody. We have TJ looking into, there's a rule that he believes he's found that, and he's drafting up an ordinance that will allow us to have access to be able to change out and put a different set of meters in. And those meters will allow us to essentially shut off just that unit. So if we've got 6 units in one, and only one person didn't pay, the other 5 don't get affected. This has been a long-standing problem. And one of the issues we do have with it is, particularly with the older properties, is landlords giving us access to be able to go and put the units in. This ordinance will actually give us a little more oomph to be able to get in and get this
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm
resolved.
sure that we have to be able to do that, because ComEd and Nicor, they have their own units for each.
So when this incident came up, there was a unit that 4 units were affected. Only one of them didn't pay their bill. So when we shut it off, we shut off the water in the whole building. And unfortunately, we don't have any other way. Otherwise, you let the one just continue to rack up a bill.
Can't believe that
So-
tenant's still there. And
Peer
then take
pressure.
off enough people.
Well, and what normally happens, the normal procedure before the water shut off is we'll reach out to the landlord and ask, okay, how can we get connected, or are you going to pay this? So, and then collect from unfortunately, in this case, what's being relayed to me was that they were less than willing to assist. And so we were left with no choice but to cut the water off. But this highlighted that this has been a longstanding issue, and so we're looking for a way to resolve it. 'Cause any new apartment buildings that are built are, based on the building codes, are already required to put in
Yes.
separate units. It's the older ones that we need to fix.
Do we have an idea of the volume that this is?
I think, generally speaking, it might be somewhere between 10 and 20 where we see this a lot, but, we do have, like Lou was saying, we do have water meters that we can shut off remotely. It's just a matter of getting in there, get it access, because if we can shut you off of the water meter, then that's only your bill, so.
Well, I know there are, like I said, there are some buildings, there's one meter coming in
Yeah.
that services the whole building.
Yep.
And the owner of the building is not interested in us individually doing that. That's unfair for the tenants of the building because they're subsidizing
Yep.
someone's subsidizing somebody, right? Because they're clearly aren't all the same amount of water users. But that's not a decision that the city has any control over unless you allow us to create an ordinance that
They
gives us
could
the.
put their own flow meters in and so on.
They could,
Yeah.
they
But-
could.
but
And
they probably
it's,
don't.
you know, and it really depends on the particular landlord, right? Because some landlords include water sewer as part of the rent, others don't. And so the city issues the bill to the property owner, not necessarily to the tenant. So if you have multiple tenants under a single water meter, they're all gonna be affected in this way if one of them doesn't pay and the landlord, you know, the payment of the water bill for that meter is dependent upon all the residents pay their share.
I have discussed, somebody in some condos had reached out to Public Works about this last year. And I told her we'd be more than happy to sell her 4 meters, but she has to do all the plumbing to split each unit into its own thing. And once she found that out, she's like, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, because there is a cost involved
Yes.
to do that, and the city's not gonna bear that cost. We provide the meter, but, you know.
When you buy it.
The infrastructure in terms of the plumbing to support that to
Mhm.
individual things, that's on the property owner.
And it's unfortunate for the individuals that do pay on time and make sure to keep their, constantly pay their bill on time. In this particular instance, just to show you how aggrieved it can get, is, and for the sake of privacy, I'll just call him Mr. Lipton. What happened was, the water was shut off and he was in the middle of a shower. The only thing he had available was actually some Lipton tea. So he actually cleaned himself off. Or, because he had soap. He was left in, and I feel bad for him, I do. But the way the system's set up, we can't do much else. So, you know, I told him we're gonna try to do better, and that's what highlighted this, and we kicked it over to see legally what we can do to gain access without going to an administrative warrant, because if we go that route, that on our side escalates the bill,
Yes.
and it's a long process. We wanna try to get in this faster and get it done.
Did TJ give you any idea of when he'll have that ready?
At last talk, last Wednesday, and I've hit him with some other things, he believes he found the right solution that fits what we're asking for. So
So,
I'm hoping that either at the admin meeting or the COW or the council meeting on the 25th, that I'll be able to come back with something.
All right.
I'd like to try to get this done this month.
yeah,
So, just to clarify, that 4-unit building, it gets 1 water bill.
No, he gets 4 water bills, but we can't shut off those meters without flipping out the meters for the ones that do the automatic
But-
shut off.
The 3 other people are punished
Yep.
for, and that's, how can they, I mean, can't they take legal action against us? They paid the bill.
There's a potential.
They have paid you, they paid us, and we're cutting off their water. I mean,
And
that's,
that's why we go to the landlord, and
Yeah.
usually the landlord cooperates.
Yeah.
But we couldn't get a cooperation this
well, I mean, the cooperation would be, I'll pay this, but I'm kicking this resident out. You know, but then again, then they get stuck in.
Yeah, it takes forever now.
It takes forever, exactly right, Matt. No, you're right. I mean,
I was saying, you probably know
our
that
system,
more
oh
than me,
yeah,
but yeah.
absolutely. No, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
People
Well,
are off, I mean, there's 10% people that ruin it for 90% of
Yep.
us.
So, and then
That follow all the
the
rules, that do everything we need to do.
other option would be to go knocking door to door, but we just don't have the personnel. And you assume that
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna
get
reach the person.
That's okay, I get it. Okay, thank you. Other new business?
Yeah, the other item, and this is
Sorry,
something that. with
I
you
had something
being-
I wanted to add, that's all,
With you being here, you might recall back in early '23, when I first got here, one of the questions that was brought up, and if you can bring up the map, Mayor, was down on Shadow Creek, is donation of land. So you can see the little highlighted strip the mayor has there.
yeah,
I did reach out to the trustee and talk to him at the time, but then conversation went silent. Well, after Mr. Papp passed away, our attorney went in to look at some documents and actually found where they had donated that strip of land to the city back in May of '23. It just never got to us yet. Now, he's confirming that that is valid and been recorded. But what this also does, and this is something that'll have to go to admin committee, but where you all get involved, as far as a committee, is this gives us an opportunity, once we confirm that we have that land, to put a bike path going up there and then loop around the pond and potentially go down the 20-foot right-of-way in the, what used to be Shadow Creek South Park, and then connect out. So you can actually reach into the community. with a
How
bike
wide
path.
is that actually? 15 feet?
It is about 16 feet wide.
Okay, Mike, can you, okay, so look, we've got a shed, Built-
We would
right.
have to take care of those issues.
so what, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the law, but there is a law that I've been using this property for so long that it becomes mine. Right, what is that? There's a,
No,
Eminent
it's,
domain, not
it's
eminent
not eminent domain. I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
It's when you've been taking care of land.
Essentially squatting.
Right.
Squatters' rights. or
But that
something
only,
like
that only
similar.
works if they assert that law, and then, even when they assert it, there's still a chance for the owner to essentially seize control again.
no, we ran into that with the bowling alley. There's a driveway that goes out to the lot where the BP used to be. And I know my father-in-law sued to get right, because we'd been using that forever, or previous owners had used it, been there forever. And, we lost, and they put blockades there, so people can't drive up. We were never using it, but people were driving up onto that, driving across, so.
But in this case, for the people who like put a shed across there,
Yeah.
you would have to have a permit to do that in the first place.
Yeah.
Or permission. You can't
Well,
just,
if it, only if it's above a certain size.
so, well, but you still can't build onto that property and then assume down the road you'll get the squatter's rights.
Well, why is that platted that way?
It's weird.
Yeah, it's a
There's
weird
trees
piece.
that have to come down too, that's.
It
a
almost looks
mess.
like except for it's too thin, but it looks like it was supposed to be a road or something that connects all of that, but it's not.
Wasn't it initially, didn't it back when I first got on, when that donation part, was that part of the whole, maybe for the parks as well, Jay?
Yeah, we were talking
talked-
about that.
yeah.
David talked about this
Yeah.
like 5 years ago. Yeah.
So the other part to it is that we already are, what should have been on the agenda tonight was the IGA with McDOT about putting in the sidewalk bike path along McGuire Airport. What this will do is, we have to extend that another 16 feet so that you have a starting point to be able to go right up that path, once you build one.
So it looks like this particular property is already in, so it doesn't require annex. I was going to make sure we didn't have to annex the property, because this parcel is not.
Right.
But I believe, based on what I see here.
Yeah.
This parcel is in fact in the city of Harvard, but this bigger parcel is not. So we don't have to do any annexation.
I mean, it'd be a great bike path. I mean, if we could, work it around, yeah.
It would make a fantastic bike path,
Yeah.
from Airport Road up, and obviously the city owns all of this land here, so
Yeah.
you could actually create a bike path. I mean, this was talked about in parks.
Yeah, we
That
talked
would go
about it like
past
4 or 5
here
years ago,
and
yeah.
create here and have an access to 173. And in fact, the city owns this property,
Yep.
this little bit of sliver along Moller Creek. We own this. So you could actually create a pathway
It'd be,
that
it
can
would be
get
very
into
nice.
downtown.
Yeah.
So as we're doing the.
It would not require any land acquisition to do so.
So as a reminder, we have a grant to do a master plan for a bike path, walk path.
Yeah.
This is something that eventually could be added in. Once we get confirmation, it's donated and we've accepted
Be
it.
supportive of that, especially if it's going through with a grant, help with the
So-
funding.
And again, once I get confirmation, it would be up to the admin committee to accept that donation. So, and that's it.
Okay, so the new business I had, and this was something I saw posted from a resident that lives over, is it Wroclaw off of Milky Way? Yeah. had concerns, some real concerns. I know that they talked to Public Works about the sidewalk, and not understanding the point of that sidewalk that had no connection to a sidewalk and obviously I tried to explain, I put a note on there, well, we have an OSLID grant, but the bigger concern the resident has, why wasn't I informed? This is obviously right next to their property. Is it a state law that says we do not have to, if there's changes? I'm trying to understand what law would say, we don't have to inform you if we're making change to
There's
right
no law
away.
that states you have to inform them on this particular issue.
Right.
Where there is law that you do have to, you are required to notify within 250 feet of the subject property is for zoning and planning changes.
Okay,
This particular issue, just like every issue that the city has, is all notified by the public by putting out
Right.
the agenda 48 hours in advance. So there is a certain amount of ownership on the residents to stay abreast of what business the city is doing, and the way that we notify the community of those actions or proposed actions is by publishing our
Right.
agenda. The law does state that you have to publish your agendas on your bulletin board. And if you have a website, because not every city does, I don't know which one's written in today's society, but the way the law is written, if you have a website, then you must also post it on your website, which we do. When I say you, not you specifically, but the city council does, we're not given a budget to be able to notify every resident that might have an issue with a specific action that city council is wishing staff to take. And in this particular issue, it's in our right-of-way. What I would expect when it comes time to do construction, that Public Works would notify those residents, hey, we're getting ready to do some construction here, and let you know that that's going to happen. In terms of proactively notifying residents that, hey, it's on the agenda and council might, determine to add a sidewalk here, there's no means available for the city to do that. You don't, that would require a pretty significant postage budget line item to be able to notify these people, and a significant amount of hidden cost in terms of man hours from the city clerk in order
well,
to make
the
those
big thing I was looking for
notifications.
here is, we only have to notify if there's a zoning change.
Yes, if there's a zoning that's a public hearing, right?
Correct.
We have to notify anybody that is within 250 feet of that subject property, has to be notified by certified mail.
So
Any
like
other
when we
action
were
it would
replacing
be-
the sidewalks up by the high school or by the grade school, or when we were doing lots, we don't have to tell people we're replacing the sidewalks. We're just gonna come and do it because it's in the public right of way.
That is correct.
Right.
The city's, how the city notifies all residents and businesses of any action that's being taken is by the agendas that we
Right.
publicize.
Well, and the rules that apply to private property are different than what applies to
Right.
public property. I think that's the most important thing, is that, for example, and easements, like, I've never, when ComEd decides to come through and do something in my backyard, they don't call me.
They knock on the door and say, hey, I'm gonna be working in your backyard because
Yeah.
I gotta do whatever work they're gonna do, because they have a legal easement to do so.
Yes, and this is within that, the
I'm
streets.
sympathetic to the residents' complaints, but there's no mechanism that the city has to be able to do what's being requested, and we certainly don't have the budget to do that for every issue that might come, that a resident may have interest in personally that might affect their property. It's just the construct of the system is not designed to make those kind of notifications.
Can you pull that up exactly? I forgot how we voted on, where that sidewalk's going.
It's Beaumont, Ratzloff. It's on the north side of Beaumont Street from the corner of Beaumont and Ratzloff, extending into the park.
So where I think the resident is complaining about is the fact that the sidewalk going down Beaumont Street is not on the other side of Beaumont Street to connect to the existing sidewalk that is currently in the park once you get past that paved area.
Yeah, because I saw that, and I
And
saw
so-
your response. I was trying to figure it out too, and I didn't look it
Well,
up yet.
so, we could pull it up on the map.
We
so
had to
that
do
you
it
can
on the
see.
one side too. We couldn't do it on the other side
Yeah.
for a reason. I can't remember the reason, but.
Well, and that's the other thing, whenever you put a sidewalk in.
Yeah.
You have to make it ADA compliant, so you
Yep.
have the ramp, but then you have to have on the other side
A
a
connection.
matching connection.
So, here we go.
Unless there's not an availability to have a connection. Like if on the other side is a river or something like that, obviously you can't.
So,
You're
you know,
connecting to
I
nothing.
believe, you know, it's gonna come down this way and
Yep.
this way.
Yep.
And I think the resident thinks it should connect to this sidewalk on this side. 'Cause
Oh, so the sidewalk way over there, because I
Yes.
was trying to figure out, because
That's where
both
the.
sides, I'm like, I don't think there's a sidewalk either
Yeah,
way.
no, so the residents, you know, saying, well, it doesn't make sense to have the sidewalk on this side when this sidewalk is on this side of, you know, of this thoroughfare. Well, the Ratzloff grant, which is a, you know, a plan that's, you know, whether we get the grant or not, it's a plan to update Milky Way Park. Is- OSLAD, what did I
Oslad
say?
grant.
You know, I used the wrong term, I'm sorry. At any rate, the sidewalk, there's plans to add sidewalk here and would eventually connect to whatever infrastructure's here.
What was the reason why we couldn't do it on the south side of that? There was a reason why we
I
didn't.
don't recall that answer.
I don't recall the reason why we didn't go on the south side. I can tell you just from looking at it, it looks like there might be more trees and obstacles on the south side.
Yeah, there is a tree there.
And there's is that electric pole right there?
Let's see if we, I gotta go to a different.
ground.
Yeah, you're right. There was something, Charlie. It was easier to do it on the north side and they could just cross over.
One thing is, it looks like less obstacles to
Yeah.
cutting things down as well.
So if I take this, we might be able to get a better idea from this view.
There's an electric pole right there too.
This pole.
It's still coming. We're gonna move
And
it.
just how close the fence and everything was on that side. I mean, granted, the property, you know, when I talked to the resident had reached out to me to clarify what was going on, and I explained to her that, you know, this is all taking place within the city's right-of-way. You know, there's surveys that are being done to make sure that we don't encroach on private property, that, you know, everything will be done. Her biggest concern is that people, one, she didn't know, and then two, that people are going to be that much closer to their house now. So she said, you know, walking on the street's one thing, now here they are 10 feet further in.
Not their property.
Right.
Well,
Right away.
I can state in my whole time as mayor, I have never received a complaint about us building a sidewalk. It's always been, why aren't you building a sidewalk, or why aren't you updating a sidewalk? And I understand the concerns
Yep.
here. It was,
They
you know,
didn't.
this committee and subsequently the council was the ones that approved this, because there is a ton of pedestrian traffic
Mhm.
that goes into this park every milk days. And if we're able to get those pedestrians off the roadway, it's safer for everybody.
Yeah, for the vehicles coming in.
Does that answer
Yeah,
your
that's all.
question?
Thank you very much.
Sure.
No, I don't want to take anything else.
Is there any other new business?
Just some updates. We did have, Friday closed the RFQ for the inflow and infiltration study. We only had one applicant, or one submittal, which is the RJN Group, which is who is working with Seabell. So we're going to go through the QBS process formally. We'll do some scores, but hopefully we'll have everything ready to go, so that way we can bring this forward to council at the end of the month. Only other update I have besides that is currently Public Works is working in Union Pacific right-of-way. We have a 12-inch storm sewer tile that's collapsed beneath the siding. So right now, we've been working on that. We hope to put a couple new structures in there. Union Pacific has been great to work with. We're working with the commuter division in that area. They're not charging us any extra. They're watching the track for us. They've closed the siding. They provided, you know, equipment in interim. They're holding, you know, keeping the spot open for us. It's been absolutely not what I expected, so that's nice. But eventually, I think we'll have to do some plans where the storm sewer goes beneath the active railroad and the train station. So I anticipate adding that to a lining project in the future, so that way we don't have to come back to this.
Just for my edification, is that project you're working on located in this area?
Yes.
Okay. I thought I saw a truck over there working this morning.
Yeah.
I'm like, are we working in the railroad
Yes.
yard? Because it's not, you know.
We were hanging over the siding track there. There's the two lines, and then there's the siding line.
Yep.
So we're over the siding line. There's a 12-inch clay that comes from, if you see the structure on the other side of the train station, there's a little dot in between the corner of the parking lot to your right more. Keep going right, keep going right, keep going right, down, more right. Those two dots right there in the middle of the drive lane, in the drive lane.
Oh, in the oh.
Yeah,
there.
that's a storm sewer that goes beneath to where the sinkhole is. So it goes underneath both active tracks and the train station. So that might be added somewhere where we line it in the future because the clay tile is not in that great shape.
So two other things I want to bring up. One was a future project for the wastewater treatment plant. This is something I've asked to just get a quote so we can ballpark it. Right now, when we have too much water coming in, we dump it off into the pond there. The lagoon, sorry. I'm from further south. Anyway, so one of the things that we're looking at doing is installing a line and a reverse pump, essentially, so that when we have low times, we can actually pull water out of that and we can extend the life of that lagoon a little longer. Plus, it will be, that way we can take that water over, run it through the system, keep everything at about the same level, and then dump it like normal once it's been cleaned. So it'll extend the life of that pond, or if we get like a monsoon type season, we've already drained the water during or drained it down during the dry months in the spring and the fall. When we do get a lot of water, if we have to dump into there, we can, and again, still stay within standards. So it's just something that we want to get a ballpark and add it to our capital improvement plan.
Mike, is there no current way to remove water from the lagoon?
Rumor has it that somehow, some way, at some point, they used to. We cannot find any plans showing any kind of a pump back station. We're going to do some investigating later this summer. There is a valve out in the yard that Charlie had found at one time, but we're not really sure where it goes. So we're going to have to probably dig that up. But there is no pumping station to bring it back.
See.
System I ran down in Mount Vernon, we had this type of pump back station, and if we did it correctly, we never overflowed the weir of the lagoon. And anytime we go over that lagoon, it's almost guaranteed that we're going to have issues with test results coming out of it because the lagoon is it's just stagnant water. It's just sitting there. So this way,
Currently, the only way that this reduces its level is by evaporation.
evaporation,
Okay, all right.
or we do have boards we can pull that will allow us to lower the level. The problem is when we do that, then we have to start treating and testing.
Sure. Well, I think it makes sense to try and remove the water when we have excess capacity, right?
Correct.
And then that allows us to have additional capacity in the lagoon when we have, high water events.
Right. I mean, there were periods this winter where our flow was so low, it would have been very nice to be able to bring that back, because that would have given us an additional food source for the bacteria in the ditch. Unfortunately, we just have no way to bring it back.
So the only other thing I wanted to bring up, because there's been, it's election season, so there's a lot of comments that are made out there. The biggest one is roads. I just want to reiterate again for our listeners out there that if you've been following along, or those who haven't been following along, yes, the voters approved a 1% sales tax that this committee and eventually the council did approve to be dedicated just for infrastructure, specifically roads, sidewalks, and curbs. That was passed in the spring of '23. It wasn't started. We couldn't start collecting that until January of '24. We are nearing the end of a full year of collecting, because we actually, let me clarify, We actually implemented it in January 24 per IDOR, the Illinois Department of Revenue. We didn't actually start collecting until about 3 months later. So we're just now starting to get to where we have a full year of collections. Now, before you can start spending the money, you got to know how much money you have. And again, through this committee and through the council and through our budget process, we do have samples that were done, core samples that were done on road work. We've got a road master plan that's coming out. At the same time, we have a potential, at least a 5-year plan to dump about $4 million worth of road work, using that 1% and stretching out as much as possible. So unfortunately, it does take time. It's not overnight that these things happen. I use the metaphor, if you're going to like take a trip around the world, you don't just grab your suitcase and take off. You got to plan it out. So this takes time. Same with our infrastructure. We've got a lot of infrastructure work. If you look at our budget, and again, be happy to answer any questions if you want to call. But we've got a lot of infrastructure projects that are going on just in this next budget year, because we're finally we've done the in-house cleaning up to be able to have some funds to be able to apply towards work. So we're getting there. And I look for a lot of big things in the years to come, because we're becoming more and more efficient with the funds that we have, and we have laid out plans and more master plans that are coming out in this next budget year. So I understand the frustration, but keep in mind, we are trying to work on this as fast as possible. And hopefully in this next summer, you'll see, and you'll start to see continuous work moving forward. That's all I wanted to say on behalf of the infrastructure.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
John?
Aye, aye.
Thanks, John. Heal up, John.
Ah, thanks.
Sorry to hear what happened, man.